What's up, everyone? You are about to witness the interview of Chris from For.The.Rock being interviewed by me, Madison. And so, this is the intro. That's it. There you go.
So yeah, praise God. So yeah, I'm so grateful for this opportunity and just, yeah, thanks again. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and if at any time you're like, man, I'm talking a lot, that's a good thing because it's an interview, so it's like, it's good. We want you to talk a lot. We want to learn about you and just how the Lord has, bestowed himself in your life and all these things. So does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Jesus. All right. Well, what's your name to begin with?
My name is Christopher William Adam.
All right, dude. We got
one.
that. I know, dude. If you'd been knighted, you could be Sir Christopher.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been saying like on your channel, like
Yeah, I try to
you've
make
been
it
clarifying what your first name is, as if people have been mistaken.
I get called Adam all the time. Like, all the time. I'm like,
Man.
It's Chris. It's Chris.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
agree. Which is, the truth, so it's good. Well, okay, so that's your name. And then we're just going to jump into it. Do you want to just share like a little bit about how God like brought you into his fold and became your shepherd and savior, and just like kind of how that went down in your life?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in the 90s on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. And I was kind of born into a Christian family. My parents, Christians. My grandparents on both sides, like both my parents' sides, were Christians. And my grandpa on my dad's side was a pastor as well. So very sheltered, so to speak, in a lot of ways for those early years. And then I grew up going to a Christian school and just being within like my family's church, like where my grandpa was a pastor. It was Christianity all the time. And my grandmother on my mom's side was very very influential in faith, in the way of she was kind of the one who was very like adamant about us going to the Christian school. And when we'd go to her house, she was just spend all the time she possibly could either giving us scripture lessons or like she was also a Sunday school teacher at the time. And so she had this like stack of Bibles in her closet. Whenever we'd go, she'd like pull one out and like give us one, and would start reading. And it was very early on. I was probably 5, like kindergarten age, when she asked if I wanted to give my heart to Jesus. And so we did that whole thing. And so growing up into school as I got older, very I was very like much a rule follower. I didn't break any rules. I didn't like do anything bad. I didn't say anything naughty. Like I was so scared of like getting reprimanded for anything that I didn't really take any risks that way. And even at the Christian school, I felt like the goody two shoes Christian kid that couldn't like do anything bad. Which I think leading up to it, leading into like middle school and high school, I probably had a slight superiority complex of being like a better person because I didn't break any rules. And I'm trying to think where. Yeah, so it wasn't until probably around 2008, no, early 2009. So I'm starting high school. I think I'm in 9th grade. And my youth group, I just started going to a youth group at a different church than my family's church growing up. We started going with some friends from school. And my brother, who's a few years older than me, had just started driving, so we were able to go to youth group on our own, away from just attending with my parents. And I think that was what was the real difference maker, where I feel like I had been living as a Christian, and I cared, but it wasn't really, I think I was hitting that age where it had to become something of my own personal journey rather than just being something that my parents fed me or my grandparents. So my brother and I started going to this youth group, and we were going to a youth conference, kind of over on the mainland near Vancouver. And then we have one, actually, I don't know if it's still going, but up until a few years ago, every year it was called History Maker. And it was just this big, you go for the weekend. We slept over in our tents in a school gymnasium. And like, it was the first time I had ever gone away from my parents for anything, like for a weekend. And so our youth group, we stayed at this Bible college, just in their gym. We set up our tents, had a fun time. I was 13 or 14, almost 14. And so we were having a good time. And then we would drive from this place to the venue, which was at like a local hockey arena, I think. And so you just put a big stage up, have speakers and bands. I got to see Manifest for the first time. It was, if anybody doesn't know him, he's like a Christian hip hop rap artist, but also does rock. So he was my first ever real like concert I went to that had, flashing lights and all that kind of stuff. I had just gotten into music, and I guess we'll circle back around to that. But yeah, time of worship and speakers, and it was like a multi-day thing. So it was at least 2 days, if not 3. And I think during the second day of that was when there was kind of a breakout at the end of a speaker, and it was very much kind of like a altar call / like within your group that you're with, or find a group, like find some people and pray. And so our youth group kind of stood in a circle and we prayed, and that was when I truly believe that I gave my heart to the Lord, like where I made that decision for myself, and I understood the weight of it mostly. And yeah, I think basically looking back, my whole life has always been circling around Christianity, and Jesus, and there's never been a time where that really hasn't been the case, but there's definitely been times, especially in adulthood, where I would kind of let that slip to the side a little bit, like not necessarily backsliding, but just not taking it as seriously, or having my faith in Christ being like at the forefront of what I'm doing all the time. And so that's definitely over the last number of years, like the main focus and main struggle is to like maintain that relationship with Jesus that obviously he deserves, but I think that every Christian should kind of strive towards. And so, yeah, that was just a little basis.
Yeah, cool. Let me ask you some clarifying question, or at least one. You said you wanted to be a rule follower and stuff for fear of being reprimanded. I guess, who were you afraid of reprimanding you? Like, was that a family dynamic? Was that like a God dynamic? What was that?
Probably a bit of both. And then, I guess in another way to put it, I guess I was always a people pleaser. And so in the context of school, like, I don't know, I guess just having any authority coming down on me and getting me in trouble. Because like I had a little bit, like, obviously I grew up in the mid to late 90s. So I think I don't know what the norm is for everybody else, but it seemed like I had heard that it was quite normal back then. But like there was a couple times that, I would say something and my mom didn't like it. And so like I got the mouthwash. Like I can't remember what it was. It was like lemon and soap or something that goes to my mouth. Okay. And I don't want to say anything that like gets her in trouble. It's like, this is child abuse, but
no, it's not.
No, yeah,
no,
like
dude, he who like spares the rod hates his child. So yeah, you weren't hated. You were loved.
I think that's been like soap. A weird thing over the last like 10 years of just like what is discipline look like for kids and stuff. So there was a bit of that, and you know, like the spankings and that kind of stuff that you had. And I don't know, I guess it did its job early on when I was really young, where I'm just like, I don't want this, like. And so no matter where I was, I would just try not to upset anybody that was in authority, especially like at the school. Like, I did go to the principal's office once in like 3rd or 5th grade, and that was because our school was at this corner of a street, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but not really. Like, there was houses nearby, but our Christian school was a kindergarten through grade 12 school, so it was small enough. It was only a few hundred kids total.
Wow.
And it's grown a lot since then, but at the time there was these like teenagers that hopped the fence over in the one corner where all the kids would kind of play. We had a little forest, like there was some trees and stuff, and these like teenagers hopped the fence, and they weren't doing anything wrong. They just kind of hopped into the school property, and you could run all the way through the forest, out across the soccer field, and to the back of the property where there was like a hole in the fence where kids would use that as a shortcut to get in and out. And so these kids just randomly were like, we want to like hop over and mess with these little kids a little bit. And so we started like chasing them and throwing them with throwing pine cones at them. We're like, hey, get out of here. You can't be here. Yeah. And so there was like
infiltrating your camp.
I think there was like 4 or 5 of us that we were playing at recess, and we were
defending,
chasing them. Yeah. And we were about halfway down the field, and all of a sudden one of our teachers just starts screaming at us from like behind. She's like, stop, get away from them, like that's dangerous, and blah 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 blah. And like the teenagers kept running away, and they got away, and we all stopped, and we're like, oh no, like we're getting in trouble. And so we got sent to the principal's office, and basically he was just explaining like, hey, you can't do that, it's kind of dangerous, you shouldn't do that kind of stuff. So that was my one time I ever went to the principal's office. Thankfully it wasn't because I was like doing something crazy and it was just singling me out. It was just kind of a group of us, but that was kind of my childhood in essence. There's a lot more stories, I'm sure, but yeah, I don't know. That answered that. Yeah,
no, it does. Yeah, I just see you guys as defending your property. I mean,
yeah.
They were they basically could have been spies, like Old Testament times, like spying out the land of Canaan and Jericho and stuff,
I think that's one other thing Christian for context school, is that, like, I don't know, as I've grown up and seeing the difference between most Americans and Canadians, like, and just the patriotism, like, that is everywhere. But I think growing up in the late 90s, where I am in Canada, at least, it was very much like, at least on the outside, everything seemed pretty peaceful, and like people don't try to provoke each other into violence and stuff. And so I think that was part of it. Was like the teachers were like, hey, like they could have had knives or something, they could have been messing with you. It's like, you can't do that, like you got to stay away.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of like in America. I mean, we have memes about Canadians, and it's most of the time you guys just say sorry all the time, for things that like aren't your fault and stuff. And so that's that makes sense based on
sorry.
Yeah, these generalizations about Canadians. Yeah, exactly, right? Bust out the maple syrup or whatever it is you guys do, whatever. But that's that's what we have. That's what I've seen growing up on the internet and stuff about.
Yeah. Can I tell one story about that? I think there's
why
one.
Not?
So fast forward a little bit, same youth group. The next year, we had the option to go to History Maker again, or instead of spending, I think it was like $150 or $200 Canadian to go to this thing for the weekend, and that paid for like our accommodations and our food and gas and all that kind of stuff. We had the option of, if we fundraised ourselves a little bit more money, like $300 instead of $200, we could go down to the States and we could attend Creation Fest, which instead of being 2 bands and 5 speakers was like 30 bands and 10 speakers.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so we're like, I brought this up. I was the one who found it because like all my favorite bands were like playing Skillet, Red, 1,000 Foot Crutch. Like everybody was there. And so we took a vote and everybody voted like, yeah, let's do this. And so we ended up going for 2010 and 2011 down to Creation Festival in Washington State. And the first year we got our campsite out on this like farmer's field and just thousands of people camping. And the next, I think it was just the next group over was another youth group, but from the States. And this wasn't my first time going to the US, but it was like the third time. And I never really met any other kids at the time. But so we're staying next to this youth group and we became friends with them pretty quickly. And I think it was like the second night we were staying up super late. All the music had been done. It was like 11 o'clock or midnight. You kind of have to be quiet for everybody kind of going to sleep. And so we're just hanging out at their campsite and getting to know each other, hanging out. And they kept asking us questions like, so you guys like ride polar bears to school, right? And just like saying the sorry thing, and they were asking all like the most typical cliche Canadian cliches that you could think of. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, man, like what is a way I can get back at them? And I was looking up, and we're in a field. Like we're in a field. There's some mountains kind of on the outskirts of it, but I'm looking around and I don't see the moon. Like it's just it's very much like there's no moon, and we're like, it's a clear open sky, and we're like, so does America not have a moon? And then they all start like giggling so hard and laughing, like that's such a stupid question. Of course we do. And they start like looking around. They're like, wait a sec, where is it? And they literally everybody got up, like 15 teenagers got up, and we're all looking around. It was hard to see, but there was one thick tree in the middle of this field, and it was dark, like you couldn't see it. And basically the moon was hiding right behind it, like no light was coming through it. And so eventually everybody like spread out and they were looking, and then we found it and they're all laughing. They're like, man, that was so good. Like
that's so funny, dude.
Oh
my gosh.
I'll never forget that. It was just so funny.
That's just like such like a early high school or like that age group, like youth group and stuff. Like, I mean, it became the quest, you know. It's like, well, we've been to the moon. Like, America was the one that went to the moon, you know, supposedly. And so we obviously have the moon. That's so funny, dude. I can just see it. That's so funny. That was like the perfect age to have like done that too, because it's like it's believable. It's like the moon's got to be here somewhere, you know.
Exactly. And it was like you could see the stars. Like it was a clear sky. Yeah. Like there's no way.
Yeah. So I guess like you talked about music and stuff, and so like you wanted to go to the States, like, you know, for the kind of conference situation, like that whole thing, getting the opportunity again because you knew those bands. And so like being raised in the faith, being raised in church and stuff, I guess like how did you like get like turned on to like Christian rock and Christian metal? Like how'd you get there from being, because you were sheltered, right? And so like what's the story?
It definitely wasn't my parents who did this to me. They took a lot of convincing.
Skillet.
Yeah. So early on, I'd say it was around 2004, 2005. So I was like 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. And we had been going to my parents' church. I grew up with. My grandpa was a pastor. And it was a small church. It was like 50 to 70 people maybe. And that was really my only church experience. We did go to another one that our other grandparents went to. Like we kind of hop back and forth every once in a while, but both churches pretty small. My grandpa's church that he was the pastor of, it was at a school here, a public school in town, and we just rented their gymnasium. And so it was the whole, you know, you set up the chairs every week and whatever. And I'm a little kid, and I had started getting into video games, and I'm just like, I just want to be at home, play video games. I don't want to have to like come here and do this. But the music, my mother would play piano, and there's usually like somebody on acoustic guitar, somebody on drums. And then when my mom wasn't playing piano, she fought with 3 other ladies over the one tambourine to like be the tambourine lady in the back. she was like, I have
Someone's
to be
gotta
a part
keep
of
the
it.
spiritual time.
Yeah. And usually it was out of time. I think she wanted it. Because she was the only person who could do it in times. Like, so when she's sitting there and there's other people on it, they're just like totally on the opposite beat. And I just remember not super enjoying music at the time. Like it was very stripped down, basic. We sang the same songs every week. I was just like, I have no interest in this. And it wasn't until, I guess, around, grade 5. I think I was in 5th grade around this time. Sorry, I'm trying to do the math. Around this time, here in school in the 5th grade, you have to take band class. Like, you have to, like, that's just a mandatory class. And of course, I thought electric guitar was like probably the coolest instrument. So
of course,
I wanted to play it, but there was only room in the school band for our class of 25 kids to have one guitarist. And then my next choice probably would have been drums, and there was only room for like 3 percussionists, and they would all have to share the drum kit, and so like the other ones would get to do some other sort of percussion instrument, and those got filled up so quick. So all that's left is typical like orchestral instruments, like, so you had like clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, that kind of stuff. And I ended up getting stuck with saxophone, which not a bad instrument, but again, at this time I didn't really have an interest in music, other than the fact that I thought the music that we played at church was very boring to me at the time. And so I started learning saxophone, but my parents, we weren't very well off, and so we got this used saxophone. And when you're first learning, like, it was an alto sax, so it had a few buttons on the top, few buttons down below, and it wasn't until like 3 months in of learning that you start using the notes down here to like, and making chords out of them, kind of thing. It wasn't until I got to that point that I realized that the saxophone was broken somehow, that none of the buttons down below worked. So the first few months were fine. It was going well. I kind of enjoyed it. But as soon as we hit that, I'm like, none of the sounds work anymore. Like, I'm not being able to make any proper notes. And I told my teacher, and he's like, you got to talk to your parents. Sorry, like, we got to fix that. And my parents couldn't afford it. And so basically it just turned into me like faking. I did have stage fright, but you could get out of having to do, when they're trying to give you a grade. Sometimes every week we had to do like a solo performance of like, just, I don't know, however many bars. And I stopped caring to learn. So I stopped practicing, and then every time it came to me, I was just like, stage fright, and then we wouldn't be forced to do it, but I also wouldn't be able to get a proper grade. So I think I ended up failing band class because of that.
Oh, no.
But the next year on, you didn't have to take it, so I stopped. And right around the same time, my parents got me my first MP3 player. And...
Was it like a Zune?
No, my brother got a Zune. But that was a little bit after. I got like the cheapest of the cheap MP3 player that had a screen on it. Okay. I want to say it was like 256 megabytes. Like, tiny amount of space. Yeah. But I was able to fit a few hundred really low quality songs on there. And everything I put on there was like, this was early YouTube days as well. And so I was really into all the nerdy things, like video games, but then like Lego and more specific niche in Lego's Bionicle. And there was one of those animated music videos. People just took clips of the animated movie and put music on it. And they had Numb by Linkin Park. And I just was like, I like this. Like, I really like the song, and it's cool. It's like, I don't know what it means, but it's cool. So I did a crappy quality download of that, put it on my MP3 player, and then just kind of one-off random songs like that, some video game music and whatever. I eventually had like a few hundred songs on this MP3 player, and as I listened more, it was a weird eclectic group of music, but I started to like rock specifically. Like Linkin Park, like that was like, this is cool. I just like this music. I had no idea that there was anything remotely Christian that sounded like that. Like it just wasn't a concept in my head. A little bit later on, I don't remember who introduced me to it, but somebody showed me Be My Escape by Relient K. And like on YouTube, just very low resolution video of it. Somehow I heard it and I was like, this is Christian? Like, this is the most like amazing song ever. And so it snowballed so fast. I went from hearing that song to we went to the Christian book and music store here in town. At the time, they had these things. Like my mom, I think, would regularly buy CDs from there, like worship music and stuff. But you go in and they have stickers on them that say like buy 5 get 1 or buy 5 and get 1 free. And so I think my mom had amassed a certain amount of stickers, or she just bought me it. We found 57 years ago by Relient K. I'm like, I know this band now, Relient K. So bought that. That was my first ever CD. I still have it. That was in 2007. And
so how old were you? Like
I was
12,
13. 13, yeah.
13.
And yeah, it snowballed really fast from there. Somebody, I think my brother found ChristianRock.net. And it's like an online radio station. I still check it out every once in a while. And
oh, cool.
One of my new songs is actually on ChristianHardRock.net, which is really cool. So
that's awesome,
yeah,
dude. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like
yeah.
first time being on the radio. Yeah, so they became like a way to discover everything. Even though I guess I didn't really know of Skillet and Red and TFK yet. But I remember seeing Crashings by Falling Up. Like I remember the cover on ChristianRock.net, so I had heard 1 or 2 of their songs. And again, a little while later at the Christian bookstore, I had the 5 stickers. My mom gave me the stickers, and she's like, you can go get a CD. And I recognized the cover of the self-titled first album by Cutlass, the orange kind of cover with the band on it. So that was my first ever free CD. So I remember that being like, I think that was my first and second CD that I ever had, were those 2. And then they also had Crashings by Falling Up. And I recognized the cover from that, so I got that. Then I was playing RuneScape. Very classic online MMO game.
Yeah.
And I had randomly met some person. We're just sitting there I was cutting trees, getting my wood cutting up. And we're talking about music. I guess I had said something about Relient K. Like, oh, have you heard of Relient K? And they said, oh, yeah, they're good. And they're like, oh, you like Christian music? I was like, yeah, I'm getting into it. And then he's like, have you heard of Skillet? And then also at the same time, I think he said Red. And I went to YouTube immediately. I watched like Whispers in the Dark and Comatose, by Skillet. And then Breathe Into Me by Red and all that kind of stuff. It just started coming out and I was hooked. And basically that was when for the next 3 years, 2007 to 2010, all I did at like every waking moment after school was usually like playing RuneScape or whatever, but I would be looking up new Christian rock. Like that was it.
Wow.
That was like all I did. I basically became my own resource. I searched every website, every like possible corner of the web to find every new band that I possibly could. And yeah, that eventually gets to metal, but I don't know if you had any other questions you wanted to ask to clarify anything.
Yeah, so you kind of like in the 5th grade is when you got introduced like to the Numb by Linkin Park, and then you found like Christian rock, like, and then you found this like all these things, and so like that was kind of like, you know, in the 5th grade you were like 10, 11, and then like I guess over the course of middle school,
a couple
is
years,
when, like,
yeah,
there was a journey, and then it became like a thing, like your thing, like after that maybe 12, 13, and then it just never stopped.
Yeah, and I think I forget what it was, like when I first had the MP3 player and I started listening to Linkin Park and whatever other bands, my parents I guess they weren't like super nitpicky on what I listened to. They just didn't want me to listen to anything that was bad, like bad lyrics and swearing and all that kind of stuff, but they didn't really question it too much. And then once I started getting really into music and getting into Skillet and stuff, and I was just playing it all the time, and then they started buying me the CDs, and I wanted to listen to the CDs in the car when we drove. Like as soon as we got out the door of the Christian bookstore, I'd rip it open and put it in the CD player. And so my parents are now subjected to having to listen to it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that was when it started to hit them. Excuse me.
Yeah,
I think my mom was more open to it, more cool with it. But my dad he had a very hard heart against it. Like, even though shortly later, like he told me that he used to listen to Christian rock, like when he was a teenager, and it was like Striper and Petra, Res Band. So he slowly introduced me to those bands, but I think something about the modern rock, and like you take like the heavier Skillet songs, like he was okay with it, but he definitely wasn't super enjoying himself when I was always listening to that. And we ended up going to just before I went to Creation Fest in 2010, literally the week before, there was a Christian one-day music festival in Vancouver, in Surrey specifically, I think, that Skillet was playing, and I think Thousand Foot Crutch was supposed to play, but one of the members was sick and they weren't able to come. But I also saw The Almost with Aaron Gillespie. He played there. He also played at Creation Fest. So I literally, like, it was a week before Creation Festival. There was a couple bands that were playing in Vancouver and then went down for that. And then they also had Tadashi, who's a rap artist, and Starfield, which is actually a local, they were pretty big at the time, but yeah, kind of a local British Columbia Christian rock CCM kind of band. But so we went to this festival and I was just enjoying myself because it was all the music that I loved. And then my dad, I still remember it, we had our lawn chairs out in the field, and you know there's probably like 1,000 people or so, and he's just sitting there like he watching me, letting me do my thing. But when Skillet came on, it was dark at this point, and they had the pyro come up the front, like the flamethrowers and everything, and my dad is still like just sitting back, like
unimpressed.
Yeah,
dude. I've seen fire before.
Yeah. And right when Skillet came on, they had the section where you could kind of mosh or stand. Like, it was pretty far back from the stage.
Yeah. Like a GA
as soon as
section.
Skillet happened, they opened the gates and they let everybody go right up to the stage. And so I was actually like 3 or 4 rows from the front. Cool. And afterwards, like I was just so buzzed. Like I was like, this is amazing. And I go and ask my dad, I'm like, what? So what did you think? Because I knew he wasn't having that much fun. He's like, it was pretty good. And he later told me that at that show, like when Skillet started, he was just not enjoying it. He's like, oh, this can't be Christian music and blah, 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 blah. And he said that when John Cooper was speaking in between some of their songs and he kind of gave a gospel message and all that kind of stuff was when his heart started to soften towards it. And I think he became a lot more supportive of it, not as, he didn't give me much of a hard time going forward. But that kind of switched in 2010 when I got into metal. That restarted the cycle.
Yeah. I guess let me ask you one clarifying question, then we can kind of like jump into that and like go
sure.
and like talk about like metal and then like your channel probably maybe too. We'll see,
Yeah.
I don't know how
Sounds
old
good.
you were when you started like channel and everything. So anyway, do you think that because you didn't like the music that you were exposed to, that when you found music that you liked, that it was like much more explosive than if you like grew up listening to stuff you liked? Does that make sense?
Right, yeah. I'm not too sure, honestly, but I think that might have had something to do with it. 'Cause, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really one of those people that's like, I guess, super rebellious, like the rebellious teenager that, oh, well, you said I couldn't do this thing. That makes me want to do it all the more. Like, that's never really been my attitude about a lot of stuff, so I don't know how much that would have played into it, but I think it was more just that it was a whole new world that, like, all of a sudden, because it was good in the sense of it was Christian, so like, you know, that, but then there was just that little bit that I had been learning of rock music is what I like, and so just having that discovery moment of these things can coincide, it didn't really matter to me what my parents thought of it. I was just like, I'm going for it, and it's been 18 years since, and it's never stopped.
How old are you right now?
I am 30, almost 31.
Okay. When's your birthday?
June,
I think I already asked you that. June?
Yeah,
6th?
June 8th. Close. Yeah.
8th. Okay. Cool. It was an even number. Whatever. I'm like kind of a visual person, and so I remember reading it, and so anyway, whatever. Yeah. So I guess so you got into Christian rock, but like you hadn't had that moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, you hadn't had that moment of like personal opening up to like the Lord, where it's like, this is now mine. This is now my walk separate from my family. And so you get into Christian rock throughout, middle school, and then like late middle school, early high school. And then you have this moment, and like, does that change anything for you? Like, so you're getting into Christian rock, and then you have this moment. Did that change your search with Christian rock at all? Did it alter it? Did it affect it at all?
I think so. Actually, I don't know what I was saying earlier, but I think basically it actually coincided right around the same time.
Oh, okay.
It was both in 2007. I just remember 2007
That's so cool.
was when I got into rock, but I know that I was into it before I went to History Maker, because I knew who Manifest was at that point, and so maybe it was late 2006. I've always just said 2007, but
yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. History Maker was 2008. So it was the whole year leading up to History Maker. I got into rock. I think what happened when I had that moment at History Maker was it solidified me more into... I was already there, but it almost solidified me more into not legalism, but just being... I only listen to Christian music. Like, that was... somebody actually confronted me in high school about it. Like, we were in woodshop together, and we were talking about music and bands we love, and I explained this kind of whole thing. And so he's like, oh, so you're convicted to just listen to Christian music. And I was like, I literally didn't understand what the word conviction meant.
Oh, okay.
Like, I thought like convicted, I feel like I'd only ever heard that word used as like when you commit a crime and you have to
Oh,
you're
okay.
convicted.
You're a
Like,
convicted felon
yeah.
with Christian music.
Yeah, so I'm like I'm like, no, like I think
not
all Christians
illegal.
should only listen to Christian music. Like
Yeah.
and so he's like, so it's your conviction. And I'm like, I just didn't understand. And so I think it may be almost hard in my heart in a way of like set in my ways, like this is all that's allowed. And like every other Christian should only be allowed this. Like that was kind of my mentality. Yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah. So you were projecting your own convictions, even though you didn't know what that word meant at the time. I guess before like we get into like more history and stuff, like just like kind of just like a personal opinion, like what do you like the most about like heavy Christian music, like now, like having been in it for a while and stuff, like what do you like the most about it?
Let's see. I think it's primarily the message first for me. And again, like I'm one of those people that even when I do my, excuse me, when I do those, like my top 10 lists and stuff, I usually have a disclaimer in there where like with my platform, I try to do my best not to lead people astray or into anything that's like, this is a Christian band, but like, they're really not.
Yeah.
I put that disclaimer in there that, you know, I try my best, but then there are some bands that you would lump into this kind of scene that don't go by that title. And I'm not trying to like place the title on them. I'm just like, well, musically or message wise, musically, like they are same category, but here's a little disclaimer so that like using your own discernment, like, cause I know that I was so hard on that and legalistic about, I can only listen to Christian music, that I know that there's those people out there and I just want to not mislead them.
Yeah, you want to be transparent, like sharing like
Exactly.
what you know, where it's like, hey, these, you know, there might be Christians in this band, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this band in and of itself is a Christian band, which is, you know, the main
argument.
yeah.
I literally
Yes.
could have that conversation for months and months and months.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for what I like about Christian heavy music, it's like first the message. Sometimes that'll take a back seat to just, okay, it sounds good. Like I like I think I like the aggression in the way that I think looking back, like when I first got into rock and into metal was like, I wasn't a super angsty teenager, but I think I held in a lot of aggression. Like I wasn't allowed to show it any other way. My brother and I are good, but he used to like try his best to get me in trouble. Like he did the whole thing where he would try and get me riled up, and then I would just kind of be like, hey, stop that. And then my mom would be from the other side of the house, Chris, stop yelling at your brother. That's not nice. And like that, I'm like, I wasn't. He was. And so
He started it literally.
And
He antagonized me the whole time.
yeah, and he would look at me with that look like, gotcha.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah. So I think that there was a lot being held within me that I wasn't able to let out. That just listening to rock music was, I don't know, cathartic in a way. Like I was able to feel that aggression somehow, even though I was just sitting there with my headphones on and like nobody else could hear it. So yeah, I think the message, but then it provided me some way to hone in whatever aggression that I had inside me. Like,
express it like just by like listening to it and stuff, and like kind of have like maybe like a catharsis where it's like, you know, your anger matches the anger sound of like the music and stuff, and then you feel better afterward.
Right, yeah. And I think the last thing, technically the first thing, I don't know what order it would be, but like along with the message, there were certain bands and certain things that, like, say Sleeping Giant, they had certain songs that were very worshipful. Like they had their stuff that wasn't, like it was just dealing with some sort of specific situation. But the worship stuff, I think, was what really tied in my early, those early years of being a Christian of my own accord. And providing me a means of worship that was not just the typical boring Christian worship music that I grew up listening to, which I've gone through seasons where it's like, I don't mind it. Like our church band now is kind of like that, but it's, when I was going through that maturing stage, like, and I didn't have that maturity about, you know, the theology of worship, like why does the music matter and all that kind of stuff. Having that kind of aggressive music, I think it was a sound to me that was beautiful, and combine that with worship lyrics that were beautiful. It was just like, this is the most beautiful expression that you can have of this to me. And I think a culmination of all those things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's so much power like in rock and metal and stuff, and it's kind of like not dissimilar to like when a worship song has like a really kickin' bridge and it just like goes ham. You know what I mean? And it's like,
got that
oh
little,
man,
that
I want to
little
do a
like double kick
backflip.
beat. Almost sounds like a breakdown, but it's like clean electric guitar instead.
Yeah, and it's like building and building, and stuff. And so, yeah, I agree, and I love that. I love just your explanation of like the beauty, like the twofold beauty, like both just musically, like it was like appetizing, and then lyrically it was beautiful because it was, you know, an exaltation of Jesus,
right,
and stuff. So that's cool. I like that. Good answer.
Thank you. I passed.
Really? No, really. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like walk me or walk us through, I guess not switching, but I guess delving into Christian metal. And I imagine that, and I could be wrong, but I imagine that path led you to kind of make For.The.Rock. And so if they're connected, can you kind of walk us through that path?
Yeah, for sure. So in that youth group that I went to History Maker in, sometime, I guess it would have been in 2009, one of my friends, we had youth group in his like family's, like they had a really big house and they had this really fancy basement that had like, they had a pool table, a foosball table, and they had a theater room. Like it was like a glass doors open up, and it was like a theater. Like you had multi-level
I thought you
seating.
said theater.
No,
I thought you said theater like snakes. Like there's just a bunch of snakes, and that's where they feed the snakes the rats. Okay, I get it now.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it was a theater room.
Wow.
A theater. Yeah, and so like we'd hang out in the theater. They had a huge projection wall, like a projector. They had like the speakers like in the walls. Like this was in the basement of their house, and it was just like insane. But he knew we would talk about music, and obviously we both enjoyed the rock stuff at the same time. But he had already gotten into some metal. He really liked Haste the Day, and so I think the first ever thing that he showed me was Blue 42 by Haste the Day, and I didn't like it. I hated it. Like the screaming was too much. I guess for also some context, when I was listening to rock, I had gotten Scars Remain by Disciple as like a blind buy. Like I knew of Disciple from ChristianRock.net, but like we were at the Christian bookstore. My mom got me a few CDs, and I grabbed Scars Remain by Disciple, and I grabbed And the Rest Will Follow by Project 86. And for whatever reason in my mind, Project 86, and that album is one of their lightest albums, I would say. Like one of them. it was too heavy for me. I was like, I felt weird listening to it. I'm like, I don't know about this. And Disciple, Scars Remain, it has some of their heaviest songs on it, I think. And there was a few moments in there where they would scream, and it was the screaming moments that kind of got me. I'm like, I don't know. I feel kind of weird listening to this. And basically, for whatever reason, I really fell in love with that Disciple album. And this was when I had a little CD player with a clock on it by my bedside, and I would go to bed listening to music. Like, I had plugged in my headphones.
Wow.
And I would fall asleep to that. Or try to fall asleep. I guess I never really did. I would just stay up listening to it, and then as soon as it's done, then I would put it down. But it never actually made me fall asleep.
It's not really a lullaby.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there was... I ended up giving that Project 86 CD to this friend because he liked heavier stuff, and I was like, I'm not going to listen to this. I gave it to him, and he traded me for one of the older Reliant K albums that I didn't have yet. The Two Lefts Don't Make a Right, but Three Do. And so we swapped. Project 86 ended up becoming one of his favorite bands. So I was like, oh, it was worth it in the long run. I ended up rebuying that CD years later because I was like, this is actually a really good album.
How old were you when you guys traded?
So this would have been 2009, so I was 15, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on when in the year. But, yeah, so he showed me Blue 42. Did not like it. Another week or two goes by, and he shows me another song. Probably Everything, When Everything Falls. And I was like, no, I still don't like it. And, yeah, it was sometime that year. My brother downloaded a game on the computer called Frets on Fire, and it was basically like a rip-off free version of Guitar Hero, and you use your computer keyboard as the buttons. And you could download anybody's song. Like, people would make their custom tracks. And my brother, for whatever reason, discovered August Burns Red. And I guess he knew that they were a Christian band somehow. He literally doesn't care. He rarely cared about music. The only bands he cared about were, here's some deep cuts. Well, Family Force 5, not so much of a deep cut, but he loved Family Force 5. His second favorite Christian band was Neon Horse.
I don't know.
So for those of you who know, this is a weird band, but yeah. So he got Truth of a Liar by August Burns Red, and I started playing it on Frets on Fire, and for whatever reason, playing along with the metal music made it click for me. I still, like, the first time I did it, the screaming was kind of a bit much, but I started playing that song, like, I went through it, I played it again, took a break, and the next time I played the game, I'm like, I want to play that song again. So I would play that song over and over again. I'm like, okay, I think I like this now. And so I went on YouTube and I searched more August Burns Red. And this was the same year that Constellations was coming out. I don't know if it had already come out, but it was around that time. And I also looked up more Haste the Day and eventually got into them. So basically, over the course of like a few months from when my friend first showed me Haste the Day to this point, I'm now like, I gotta find more of this. And it turned into the same thing when I first got into rock. It was just like every moment after school, all I did was just like search online, like for every Christian band I could possibly find. And it was like Sleeping Giant, Devil Wears Prada, all Under Oath. And,
so you were like getting into it kind of at the peak of like this, like almost like MySpace era of like music and like Christian metal and like post-hardcore, metalcore.
I think had I gotten into it a few years earlier, I would have been there for like everything. But I was there for when like For Today dropped Breaker.
Okay.
And I've told this story on our podcast a few times where it's like my grandma, who was the one who was very like trying to get us to do everything with her, like she would give us allowance for reading the Bible. Like that was, I didn't mention this when I was younger. Yeah, she was like, Well, and this led to a lot of questions in my head so when we were very young, like, I don't know, I guess I was 5 or 6, like, well, I could start to read. She was very adamant that we only read the King James Bible, King James Version, which at that age is, I think, very difficult.
It's like word soup.
Words that, like, I barely know words now, but now I have to
now
know.
You're throwing more at me, Grandma? No one says this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't know what half of those words were. And so it started out with, she would give us, for every day, we started off, like, let's say Matthew 1 at the beginning of the month. And every day we had to read a chapter, and we had to write in our journal our favorite verse. And if we wrote something down for that day, she would give us, I want to say 25 cents, like a quarter per thing. So basically by the end of the month, you'd have, if you did like 30 days, whatever that is, like $10 or something. But this led to a lot of, I didn't do this all month. I can't disappoint Grandma. And so, like, second to last day, I literally just, like, skim through chapter by chapter of Matthew and just look for a verse that looks nice, and I would read it. Yeah. So this turned into, like, obviously that is horrific lying because I was doing it for money. I have told her this, like, 10 years ago. I told her that this had happened, and, you know, she was okay with it. Like,
here's my quarters back, Grandma.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it started with that, and when For Today came out, and I was just getting into metal, we went for a walk around a local lake here, and there's snow, like, we're just walking along the trail, and I was, like, obsessed. I think Breaker by For Today had, like, dropped the day before, and I had heard it once or twice already, and I would only go for these long walks, like, if I could have my MP3 player with me. And so my grandma asked what I was listening to, and I showed her it, and so we shared an earbud. Like, I had one, she had one. And we listened to the whole album as we walked. And I don't know how much she, like, enjoyed it, but she was like, yeah, I can understand this. Like, most of it anyways.
Like the words.
Yeah. She could make out a lot of the words, and she was like, she really liked the message. And so that all of a sudden made her now really open to me getting into this kind of stuff. Because this is where my dad was now questioning it, like,
yeah, I mean, if he was questioning, like, hard rock, I mean, how much more? That makes sense.
Once the screaming kicked in, I think he was having a hard time with it, especially, like, when we would listen in the car. Like, I almost couldn't. I think most of the time, if it was screaming, we wouldn't listen to it in the car unless it was just my mom and I, because she was, like, okay with it. But my dad would start making comments when I was a teenager. He'd like, I was kind of like an overweight, chubby kid at this point. I was very shy, and I had, like, this, like, curly, messy hair, and my dad would make comments like, you don't look like a metalhead, or you don't look like you listen to metal. And I'm like, what is a metalhead supposed to look like? And obviously I was a kid, I couldn't have tattoos at that point, which I still don't, but it was just like, my dad did not understand it for so long. And it wasn't until later we had moved. It was basically my grade 12 year. I helped him do some renovations on a house that he was doing. And he had a little CD player and speakers so he could listen to it. And I would bring some CDs with me for that day. And mostly rock, the odd metal one. And I think he was kind of starting to be okay with it. And then it wasn't until I moved away. I moved out when I was 18 with my brother. We moved back home because we had left for Saskatchewan at that point. But it was short, like a year afterwards, my dad came to visit, and he had I think in 2013, he put Rescue and Restore by August Burns Red on his phone. And was like, he would sometimes just have it playing. And I'm like, so you like that now? And he's like, well, I mean, I don't know if I like it. He's like, it's okay.
But I listen to it and I enjoy it, but I don't know if I like it.
Closet metalhead. Yeah,
it's okay, Dad. You'll be cool.
Yeah, you'll be cooler.
You'd be cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of one of those things where it just turned into, I was searching for everything I possibly could, and right around this time, 2010, this kind of is the beginning of For.The.Rock, but not For.The.Rock yet. So 2010, 2011, I had already made some YouTube channels at this point, like as a kid, like teenager. I think I had some where I would just post these random dumb videos that me and my brother would film. And,
yeah, I mean, that's what YouTube was.
Yeah,
dude.
right?
Just like, yeah.
And so I had a channel called Christian Rock Live. And it started with, when I started going to these shows, like I would film them, whatever I could. And I started putting up these live videos. So I started this YouTube channel, and it started with just me posting live footage, but it turned into me actually like doing the typical, like, it's just the black screen with the album art and an individual song. And I started doing this for like every new release. And at the time, like, copyright was a little bit different. And I think a lot of that stuff I got away with for whatever reason, because there wasn't the same like audio detection thing that is on here now. But if you did that with a band that was big enough, like, you say you did a Flyleaf or a Skillet, and you uploaded their tracks like that, almost right away they would get flagged and reported. And if you had 3 strikes, your channel would get deleted. So I was doing it basically with just smaller bands. And it gained a lot of traction really fast. Like, I remember I was a, I don't know, 14-year-old kid, and I had a channel that had 10,000 subscribers, because there was a lot of people looking up this stuff at the time.
And that was
And
like 2008, 9. Yeah,
and I think it was in 2012, 11 or 12. I hadn't really had, I think I had 1 copyright strike, and then if you wait long enough, it goes away and it doesn't affect your channel anymore. And so I was being careful as much as I could back then. And just out of the blue in 2011-12, I had like 3 videos back to back to back, like all within like 2 days, get flagged and like copyright strikes. Like,
wow.
It was a couple Flyleaf and Skillet related ones, even though it wasn't just like their music straight. Like, it was like live footage and stuff.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, that happened, and my channel got deleted. Like, I could not, there's no way to get it back. Like, you couldn't fight it, you couldn't do whatever. And so I gave up. I was like, I had so many videos. I've had so many thoughts over the years. I'm like, man, if I could just see that channel now and see some of the music that was there, because like I'm sure there's a few things on there that I've completely forgotten about that existed. And there was some live footage of like that 2010 Creation Festival, like of me seeing Sleeping Giant for the first time. Like, that footage is gone. And I'm like, man, I wish I could see it again. But
yeah,
I filmed Creation 2011, and I didn't upload all that footage right away, and I actually made myself a DVD. So I have a DVD with like a custom cover of it.
That's so cool, dude. That's so old school.
I was like, I gotta save this somehow, and I started uploading the footage onto this channel before it was For.The.Rock. I think there's only a couple of the sets on there, but that was 2011. So, I mean, next year is like the 15th anniversary of it. I don't know. I was kind of waiting to do like a summer, like I'll just upload all the footage because now it really doesn't matter. But yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking when that happened. Lost my channel, and 2013 was now when I had moved out. I moved back here. There was a pretty big local music scene here in my town, and not much. There was a few Christian bands which were really cool, which I want to do a video sharing some of them at some point soon, because like I'm sure 99.9999% of my followers have no idea who these people are, like these bands. I'm like, they were like so cool. I started just filming more professional-ish videos, and I just wanted to have a channel. So the channel that is currently called For.The.Rock was, I think, just my name. It was either Christopher Adam or Adam Videos or something like that. And I had some local footage from bands here. And then this was when I was entering adulthood. I was like kind of able to discern like what's okay to listen to and what's not. And so I started listening to some secular music, and like there was the odd band. I think one of the earlier ones that I listened to was Hands Like Houses.
Dude, I remember them.
There were some bands like that I was okay with listening to. And I got into like We Came as Romans and Memphis Mayfire, which at the time weren't considered a Christian band in any way whatsoever. And I was just like, these bands are cool. But I had this channel, and I was just trying to do some cool videos. I was kind of trying to get into concert photography and stuff. It wasn't really my passion whatsoever. Like I just yeah, this is cool, I'll try it. And a number of years goes by, and I uploaded some. I started doing that thing where I would upload like a new release by bands, like, and if you go to some of my most popular videos on my channel, like if you do the ones that are like the most viewed, you'll see some of these from like 2013, 2014, like some new Emery demos, and like the band Still Remains and whatever. Like these videos have like 10 to 30,000 views on them, kind of thing. But it wasn't really meant to be like a Christian only channel. I still just primarily listened to Christian music, so that was the most that I would do. Later on, it was around 2018. I hadn't really been in the scene for a couple of years. Like I kept up with releases, but not like I used to, like when I was a teenager. And I still loved listening to it, but I feel like 2015 to 2018 was kind of a lull period for Christian music. Like there was some good releases, but the actual number of stuff coming out, it had dwindled. Like the scene was dying in a lot of ways. And it was around Christmas of 2018, or sometime in 2018, sorry, I started For.The.Rock officially. I made an Instagram page. I made my first logo, which looks, I kind of want to do like a throwback t-shirt. If there's anybody,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, it was totally different looking then, but
yeah.
So I started For.The.Rock, and it was going to be just like actually at the time, so Sean from KingdomCore, he had aggressive worshipers, and it was just, he would just share cover art, basically, like, this is the music I'm listening to right now. And I was like, oh, that's a cool way of using Instagram, because at the time I had only really used it for a little bit of photography, or just sharing, like, Facebook, like, just life updates, like, I went here, here's a selfie of me, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I saw aggressive worshipers, and I was like, okay, I'm like, I do just like sharing music. Like, I just want people to know about this music more, because like there's nobody talking about these bands. So I made a page. Again, I didn't know how to use Instagram. I wasn't thinking it was really going to go anywhere, but I think it culminated with me also doing some stuff on YouTube. And sorry, just trying to think next portion here. So Instagram didn't really do too much, and about 2 or 3 months into just posting some, like, here's a new release, I started talking with Aaron Peter of ChristianMetalSource. He's from India, And so we just we had talked online a little bit on Facebook. I think we were Facebook friends and chatting, and he had his channel was going really well. Like he was posting new releases by all these smaller bands, posting visualizers and stuff. I contacted him and I was just like, hey, like, do you want any help doing anything? Like, I would just love, I didn't want to start from ground zero. I was so like, I don't want to do this again and again. So I was just like, do you want any help? Like, I literally just want to find stuff and share it. Like, that's all I care about. And he was like, yeah, like, let's do it. And so I actually started, I had For.The.Rock, the name, and I, partnering with ChristianMetalSource, I started the For.The.Rock podcast. And it was never released on Spotify. This was 2018, 2019. I literally just uploaded them on the ChristianMetalSource Bandcamp page. So you can go there. It's still there. I have like 9 episodes.
Okay.
The last episode I did was episode 9. I was just looking at this the other day. I interviewed Sean in I think this was like early 2020.
Yeah.
And we had just kind of started talking online more and became friends, and that's kind of how it leads into that. But I also interviewed Jeremy Schaefer of Earth Groans. That was my very first interview that I ever did. Before that, it was kind of just like a radio show where I put like, here's some music that's come out that I like, and I'd play the tracks. And I didn't want to put them up on Spotify because I knew there was some weird like copyright stuff. Like you can't really do it. They've kind of made ways to do it now, but that was essentially it. Like I was just doing this radio show that turned into interviews, and then in 2020, I had been helping out with ChristianMetalSource a little bit. I started doing reactions like during the early days of the 2020 lockdowns. I was starting my reactions on the ChristianMetalSource channel. I did like 40 of them, I want to say.
Wow.
And at that point, I was like literally nothing against Peter at all. Like I loved working with ChristianMetalSource, but it was giving me the drive to do this now with For.The.Rock. I felt like I was praying about it, and like I felt the Lord was saying like, For.The.Rock, like this is this is like your ministry that you're gonna do, kind of. And so I started doing, as I finished up a couple videos on there, I started uploading on For.The.Rock, and it just kind of snowballed, and I just had more time in 2020. And basically it was a slow start, but I really was trying not to focus on numbers and the analytics of a lot of it. I was just like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do for the Lord. Like I want to be able to share the music with the message and potentially hit new people, but like basically just encourage his body, the church, like because I know that there's other people like me who, especially like back then in school, like I just didn't fit in entirely, and I was like the only one who really cared about this kind of music. And it just kind of snowballed and turned into For.The.Rock. I had it initially in 2018, then took a break, went to ChristianMetalSource, and then there was already a little bit of a foundation that I hopped back onto
in 2020.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow, dude.
Sorry, I am like out of breath.
No, no, it's okay. Take a break, dude. Get something to drink. Yeah. No, dude, we're getting the timeline. We're getting like the full unabridged
thing,
time. Yeah. It's okay. No, this is good. I mean, like, because like I don't know if you've done this before. Maybe you have, and stuff. But like, I think you're just doing this so well and stuff. And so I don't know, just like the Lord gave me this. Yeah, I think that like the Lord just gave me this idea and stuff, and it wasn't like my own thing. And yeah, I just think like you've been so humble, and like you just, I don't know, like you deserve like a space, like, to be learned about too, because it's like you're doing ministry and stuff, but like, who are you too at the same time, and like how did this start? Like the backstory is important and stuff, and like, I mean, I'm learning so much, and like whoever watches this is going to learn. It's just going to be like a fuller picture of like who you are as an individual, as a Christian, and like as someone who's passionate about this music, and like out now also as a musician too. So it's like it's For.The.Rock, and now you have Refiner, which is like going places with Rottweiler and like, and you also have Robe Nation. Like, I guess, do you want to like like plug your music really quick
Yeah,
and like talk
sure.
about that? Yeah.
Actually, so this is kind of good timing because I can kind of announce it here.
Cool.
I haven't filmed it yet, but so it's funny. This upcoming Sunday, Easter Sunday, April 20th.
Easter Sunday.
That's my
Yay.
wife's birthday. That's the one special thing. But then Easter Monday, the 21st. People say that here, anyways.
Oh, okay.
That is, yeah. We got Good Friday, Easter Sunday, and Easter Monday. Easter Monday is unimportant, other than it used to be a stat holiday here, so you get paid for it. But on the 21st is the 10th anniversary of my first album. That is like, I sure barely anybody knows of or remembers at this point, because like early For.The.Rock, or my early channel, I was posting this music. The videos are still on there. If anybody really cares, they can go back to the oldest videos and they'll probably see a lot of stuff. It was my old project called Beyond Vision. That was my first official music project that I did, and I actually released. I had 100 copies made. I sold like 85 of them over a number of years, and I still have a small stack. And I kind of want to do a giveaway at some point, and like shipping costs are insane.
Do your throwback like For.The.Rock.
I want to do a video
and that.
Yeah. I want to do a video this week. I want to try and film it and get it out for the 21st. I don't know if it'll be possible, but I'm going to subject myself to listening to every single piece of music that I've ever made as like a really long kind of reaction thing. And I might chop it down just to like the better bits of it, but I found it took so long, but I found the very first pieces of music that I ever made back from like 2012, 2013 on actually it might have been like 2010 maybe, on a website called Newgrounds, and it took me so long to remember what I put it under, like the title. And I found them. I've saved them. They're on my computer. I have the first two songs.
That's awesome, dude.
And
that probably felt so good to find. That's awesome.
Yeah, it took so... They're terrible. Like, the most terrible songs. Like, they are junk. But I want to kind of do this video, like, where I just... Because there's so many people that don't know that I've done music way back, even, like, Beyond Vision. Like, I had 20 songs that I released through that project before I started Refiner. So I just kind of want to go back and like, here's a time capsule for years from now. I can go back and look at, and here's a collection of all my music, as bad as it was, to where it is now. Because I am so excited for the new Refiner stuff. But
would you ever like re-release them under Refiner? Like
I
remaster
thought
and,
about
rework
doing
them?
like completely reworking them, like using some of the lyrics and maybe some of the guitar parts and stuff. And that was the crazy thing. I played guitar on all of those. I wouldn't know where to begin to try and recreate them because I played guitar a little bit about 10 years ago. I was trying to get into it, and I feel like I hit a wall where I just wasn't getting any better, and like I didn't take the time to really like learn any sort of music theory or like understand what I'm doing. That I just kind of hit a brick wall and I stopped, and then I started playing bass in church I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and I did that for a few years, but most of the time church music on bass very simple. Like it's not that hard, so like I didn't ever really have to challenge myself, and literally now for the last few years, for just some reasons of the way our living situation was, and changing churches that we had been going to after my wife and I got married, I have my guitar and my bass sitting in a case just over against the wall here. I have not touched them in a couple of years. And so this is the thing with Refiner, and I have disclosed this before, but I actually don't know when I did or where I did. And at the time, Refiner was just starting. But the secret to Refiner is not AI. There's no AI involved. But I do everything MIDI. Like everything, the guitar, the bass, the drums. And there's moments that I can tell that it is, and I'm sure that there are lots of people out there that can't tell. I've had numerous conversations with actual musicians in the scene that I really love. And so many of them were asking me like, yo, like, how did you do this guitar riff or like this? And like, they didn't know that it was MIDI.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, that means that it's good enough that it sounds real, which is the whole point.
Yeah.
But it was just at a much higher quality that I could do myself by playing. And I had a really, really encouraging conversation with Chris from Fallstar a few years ago. And we were talking about this. This was right after I released my first EP with Refiner. And he asked me about it, and I said it's all MIDI, and he was mind blown. He was like, what? There's no way. And I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, I told him how I kind of stopped playing guitar. I just procrastination, whatever downfalls. Like I just stopped playing and learning. And I'm like, yeah, I felt like this was almost like a more natural fit for me to try and do it this way. And he's like, the things that he said that kind of stuck with me that I really love is like, he's like, that's awesome. He's like, you knew what you wanted to create, but like you found a way to do it and not necessarily doing it the traditional way. The label head at Rottweiler, he's been encouraging it. He's just like, I don't care. He's like, music is music. It's sounds. And obviously I think there's a lot of musicians out there that, and I don't like to call myself a musician. I guess I would almost say more of like a producer in some ways, but my wife always tries to introduce me. Oh yeah, my husband plays, or he's a musician. He plays. I'm like, I don't really play any music anymore. Yeah, find what you want to do and do what you have to do it in some ways. And I try and disclose that because I don't want a lot of people thinking that I'm the super amazing guitarist. I'm like, I really not. I can play a little bit, but
yeah, but it is like your creativity. Like, would you feel like music artist is more like an appropriate title? Like, how would you label yourself if you were going to introduce yourself? You know, what would you say?
Yeah, I feel like it changes every day. Like whatever.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
But yeah, like, artist or producer or whatever. Like, it was kind of hard when the newest press release for the Refiner, like the first 2 songs that just came out a couple months ago. A lot of these outlets that got this press release, like it says multi-instrumentalist. I'm like, no, I can't.
Multi-midious.
Yeah. Emphasis on the mid. No, just kidding.
Yeah. No,
I'm
dude.
yeah. But yeah, it's been a journey, and like I still want to pick up guitar, and I want to get back into it. It's just life has the busyness aspects, but then I think sometimes I just put some stuff off, sadly. But it would be fun to carve out the time and like find the discipline to like actually do it for real, like a lot. And when I go back through this Beyond Vision stuff in this video, like people can hear like my actual guitar playing that I recorded. But the thing that, looking back on that album, I didn't know how to mix properly. So the production side of it is definitely lower. And I didn't have a bass. So there's no bass on it either. So I pumped up the low end on the guitars and a bit on like the drums, so it kind of filled it out. But yeah, it's a mess. It would be cool to do a couple Beyond Vision tracks, throwback, but
or just doing like a small like EP, like 3-5 songs and stuff, like remaster. I mean, you said you had 40. Is that the number, or is that the reaction video number? How many songs did you have with Beyond Vision?
Beyond Vision was 20.
20? Something.
20, 21, something like that, yeah.
Okay, so the 40 number was like the reaction videos you had with...
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was ChristianMetalSource, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess like quickly, like I'll ask you maybe 2, 3 more questions, and then
Yeah.
we'll kind of like wrap up and stuff.
For sure.
I guess why, and maybe you kind of explained it, but just like, briefly, like why did you separate Refiner from White Robe Nation instead of kind of having them be integrated?
Right. So Refiner was actually kind of born out of Beyond Vision. Like I renamed my social media pages. I'm like, Beyond Vision's being put to rest. Like, it's done. I took all the music off. I'll have to check after. I might still have it. The accounts that I used for distro, like to put the music up, was different. So I can't remember if I've actually taken Beyond Vision down or not. But basically, I tried to repurpose everything that was Beyond Vision. I turned it into Refiner because I'm like, this is going to be a new thing. It's going to be way better. Like, it's,
There
I'm
will
going to
be
make
bass.
it's going to have bass. Like, I'm going to try and make it like as professional as I possibly can. And hopefully it comes across like from my first EP to the new music that's coming out now. Like, just in those few years is like a massive change in my production that's like way better, hopefully. But yeah, so I just kind of repurposed those. White Robe Nation was actually a thing that started earlier than Refiner. It was late 2019. I was talking to Andrew Hopper of Fire from Heaven. He has a solo project. He just cranks out insane amounts of music at this point. But you can go check out his Bandcamp and all that, Fire from Heaven. And I really enjoyed his guitar playing. Like, he had some really good chops. Like, he could come up with riffs. He would literally just film himself writing stuff. But he would just sit there and he would do some random little doodle on the guitar. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's a song. Like, every single thing he did, I'm like, that's a song. Like, let's make it.
Cut, sign, print. Yeah.
We started talking because he also had a YouTube channel at the time called Christian Metal Brotherhood. And we were kind of doing a similar thing. We were doing reactions and stuff. So we talked. I liked his guitar playing. It was really good. And so I asked him if he would maybe want to do an online project. So I was like, what if I sent you some drum tracks? Like, I'll write some drum tracks or whatever. Record whatever you want on guitar. Like, let's make it metalcore, like For Today-esque, like with some like August Burns Red. Like, these are kind of the style that we're going for. And he's like, yeah, like, let's do it. And we'll make it like super Christian, like lyrically, and like just scripture and what we can. And so I sent him the drum tracks. He took like a week or two, and then he's like, here's some guitar parts and bass. He recorded bass for it, which I'm like, sick.
Nice.
So he sent me the stems back, and then I started to produce it. And the early stuff, we were finishing the first song. It was called Prodigal. We finished that in like late 2019, early 2020, and we released it, I believe, on March 15th, 2020, which is the day that like the world went into lockdown.
Oh.
Like, it was that weekend that it was a few days before lockdown, I think. We released that first song. We released the video on ChristianMetalSource because like this was right around the time I was switching back to having a For.The.Rock channel. I think we did it on both. I can't remember, but it got really good reception. But everybody was saying, oh, the production's a little bit, could use some work. We did that one, and then we actually did the next song was called Pandemic. That one did well. I really like that one. And then months and months later goes by, and we finally released a third song, and we just made it a 3-song EP. Then we didn't do anything for a long while because that was around the time I was starting to do For.The.Rock a lot, and I started working on Refiner. We did another White Robe Nation track called Rebirth, and that one I was trying to really focus on making the production good and elevating that. But we had plans. He actually recorded like 2 more guitar tracks and bass tracks for like 2 more songs, and like I dropped them all. Like, I've had them for a year and I just haven't worked on them. So the whole signing with Rottweiler in 2022 for Refiner, that took the priority all of a sudden. Like I was like, okay, I have to focus on this. And I was initially supposed to have like a full length for like 2023 was kind of the goal. And just life kept throwing things at me, and also being lazy at times. I got so behind in it, and I started putting so much pressure on myself that I'm like, this is my chance. I'm like, this is a record label release. I'm like, I have to make this so good. And I just started focusing on, like, I put so much pressure on myself to like make this live up to that in my own head for like what that meant. And I've talked to the label a couple times, and like I even tried to get out of the contract because I feel like it started to like swamp me. Like I'm like I have no drive to get this done all of a sudden anymore. Like it took it all away. Like the fun was gone. And they were like, dude, there's no pressure. Like there's no time limit. You just do you do, like, if you do exactly what you did before, like, good. Like there's no pressure. Like we like your music, and that's all that really matters. Like we'll just release it, it's fine. And so finally, a few months ago, I had another conversation with them, and they've always been so encouraging to me. So much patience, and he kind of like shook me out of it, of like, dude, like it's okay. Like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't have to be, you know, whatever. Like we'll just release your music. Like it's okay. So the first two songs that just came out, the Return to Dust EP, those two songs I started writing like, I want to say in like late 2022, early 2023, and I had like the majority of the music done. Like the songs instrumentally were done for 2 years, and I just sat on them. And the next two songs that are about to come out very, very soon, that I'm really excited for people to hear, those two songs, I believe, were actually the first two songs I had started writing, even before the Return to Dust ones. And that was like very early 2022. And I just did the lyrics more recently and got them done. But finally I got a kick in the butt to like get these done. And so hopefully, if all goes according to plan, I've submitted the next two. Like they are coming out next month. That should be announced sometime soon, but hopefully by the end of this year, sooner rather than later. And I think once I'm done this, there's some other things coming up in life that will be announced very soon. I think after this point, Refiner might take a small break, but it's going to be like a whole new chapter after that. I'll be able to, I think there'll be a renewed sense of enthusiasm to make the music, and to like, the process will be a lot faster, hopefully, but we'll see how all that goes.
Yeah, so it sounds like those are things, like, 'cause I was going to ask, like, how, like, whoever watches this and is, like, still here, like, how can we pray for you, like, as, like, a Christian metal, hard rock community, like, so it sounds like those kind of things, like, and maybe also, like, your endurance and, like, and stuff, and, like, to persevere with, like, the music and stuff, but also to, you know, I would probably insert to, like, not have that be a burden, and, like, to let it more, like, be, like, a joyous expression, you know, of your faith. And so it doesn't come from, like, a negative pressure. It comes from like just a natural outpouring.
Yeah, which
so
I think.
How else can we pray for you? Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, that very much was like the first EP. Like that was just a fun passion project. Like this is what I want to do, and have fun doing it. And there was just so much getting in the way for me for this one. I like the enemy kind of stopping me, like, or kind of just putting those roadblocks in my way, and I let them stop me for so long. And so just prayer for that. And I think which everything will be coming out semi soon. Got some family news coming up that's going to be very life changing, and just prayer for that for my wife and I, and obviously I'm not trying to be like an unspoken prayer request, but what obviously I'm not giving all the details, but
Prayers
everybody will
for a
find
new
out soon enough.
chapter. Yeah. No, we can make it vague.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
So yeah, definitely those two things, and I think there's some stuff to consider, and I think with this big life-changing chapter that's coming, I've actually been praying about it, and there's a possibility that some changes might come with For.The.Rock, and that might be possibly some help needed, which I've never done before, like bringing kind of in a person or two to kind of be part of the team and to kind of help keep it going, so to speak. So we'll see how that plays out. I want to pray into that a bit more. But with that being said, if anybody's listening to this and you enjoy content creation, and you have like a bit of the equipment and the skills and stuff, so maybe For.The.Rock could use you. But yeah, that's definitely going to be an interesting process if I pursue that, but definitely more prayer into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. If you want to, which you don't have to, do you want to like just kind of pray for like the community, like at large, just like whatever, is on your heart for this community, people who are listening, people who are making the music, like whatever, like, would you be comfortable doing that? If not, it's okay. Yeah. Moisten your
I can do
your
it.
windpipe. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
If you want to join in, and we'll do a popcorn prayer, you can close it off.
Popcorn. That's what too much. Yeah. Well, why don't you start and then I'll close? How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. Lord, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with Madison, and just seeing her ministry kind of blooming with this page online, and just thank you for bringing us and like this community together and seeing all the passion that everybody has. I think the main thing that I really want to pray over us is just to really focus on Christ above the music. Sometimes we'll let our passions and our hobbies kind of take over and be the emphasis of our lives, and we just want to remain close to you, eyes on you, and just help us with discernment over what we should be listening to, and what we share online, and what we like who we share. And Lord, just thank you for this community. It's been a big part of my life over all these years, and I just want to see it continue to thrive and grow. And just as we grow closer to you, that more of this just glorifies you, and people on the outside can see that and want more of it and want you. Just thank you for everything that you bless us with, and the amazing musicians and people that obey you and live their lives for you and make some amazing music that can bless us in our walk with you. Yes, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, Lord, yes, amen to all of that. God, we thank you. Thank you for Chris. Thank you for his heart and his humility. God, I pray you'd bless Refiner and For.The.Rock, and that you would just continue to comfort him, his family, in this transition that they're moving into. Please bless them. Help them know that you are near. I pray that you'd be so near. It says you're nearer than a brother, God. You're so near to us, and you draw near to the brokenhearted and the contrite in spirit, God. And so I just pray that blessing, that Chris and his wife and his family will just continue to serve you humbly, and it's for you. Everything is for you, that we would have the right, as content creators, we'd have the right heart and the right message, like he said, like being really careful, like what we consume, and then also like what we put out there, because there's influence. And I pray that we can live holy and we can show holiness, and that it matters, and that it's important, and it's good for us. I pray that we can have humility in whoever's making music or having a page or, running some sort of content creation for the heavy metal Christian community, that they would remain humble and close to you, so that they're just an extension of you, the true vine, and that they'll bear fruit, and that those who are consuming the media will be refreshed by the fruit that, these people bear into the community. And just that we would edify one another, that we would live holy, upright lives, and just encourage one another into holiness, into righteousness, and into your presence, God, into the prayer closet, so that we can continue to glorify you and make your name be great among the nations. Christian metal spreads, and we really want it to honor you and exalt you, because it's all about you and it's all for you. And so I pray that anyone who makes stuff in this scene, that they would do it for you, and that there'd be a lot of prayer and maybe even fasting when it's appropriate and led by your Spirit. So we thank you, God. Bless Chris, bless this interview, and let the right people see it, and let it be encouraging. For that in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you.
Cool, dude. We did it.
Yeah. Woo.